Hey everyone, this is Claire LeBeau from NASEF, the North America Scholastic Esports Federation. Super excited at the lineup that we have here today, because if you are thinking collegiate esports, this is your group right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and let each person introduce yourselves. Let's go ahead and start with Michael. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So, I'm the executive director for the National Association of Collegiate Esports. For short, we just call it NACE. That's what everyone else does. I've got a number of responsibilities, but for the most part, we want to see collegiate esports formalized. We want to see opportunities at the collegiate level across both the United States and Canada, and we put in a ton of effort with our member institutions to create those opportunities. And I'm ecstatic to be here with some of the best and brightest in our association here to share about themselves.
Awesome. So you said you want to see it formalized. So let's just clarify, because boy, you have a lot of members. So we know it's formalized in a lot of schools. How many schools are in NACE right now?
So right now, in terms of full NACE members, we're at 212. I think as of yesterday. So I actually saw one come in today. So that must be 213, which is fantastic. Right.
Awesome.
To put it in perspective, in 2016, July of 2016, there were only 6 colleges and universities in the United States that had varsity level esport programs. So that's absolutely outstanding growth. The running joke is the speed of higher education, which is to say it doesn't move very fast. Esports is at this point the exception. I mean, it is moving incredibly quickly. Schools are adopting esport programs left and right. Even better than that, the esport programs that we've seen that schools typically start or have started in the past are growing or much, much larger, right? It's not just like here's a team. It's now here's an entire program that focuses around not just competition anymore. It's still a core area, of course, but now looking at academic pursuits, looking at community engagement, fundraising, right? Everything that we see athletics today and more, we're seeing schools experiment with when it comes to their esport programs.
Right. That's awesome. So speaking of thriving esport programs, we have 3 leaders of just fantastic programs. So great to have you all. Let's see, Adam, why don't you introduce yourself and a little bit about your school and your program?
Yeah, my name is Adam Antor, and I am the director of esports at Florida Southern College. Prior to being at Florida Southern, I started about a month ago. I was at Aquinas College in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I was the head esports coach. And what's interesting to note about our program here at Florida Southern is I actually report to 2 different people on campus. I report directly to the athletic director from a competition standpoint, but I also report to the dean of students when it comes to student engagement on campus. And both are very pivotal parts of my role here at Florida Southern.
That's awesome. That's an interesting and really smart split, it sounds like to me. We have a lot of that going on in NASEF at the high school level too. You may be part of athletics, but definitely part of the instruction, the curriculum, super important. Danielle, how about you?
All right. I'm Danielle Sirekis. I am the head coach of esports at Lawrence Tech. We have a brand new program. I'm also like Adam, where I report to student affairs and athletics. So I'm kind of in more of a sweet spot as well. I think I pivot more on the student affairs side, but we definitely are a part of it. And we grew from 0 to 41 currently is our roster. And I am competing in about 8 titles, which, I wish, Doc, I'm a little bit crazy, but I like to be an overachiever and hit a home run when I go. So
that's awesome. Adam, how many titles do you guys compete in?
We compete on a varsity level in League of Legends, Overwatch, and Rocket League, so only 3. But we also support some club level competition for Hearthstone and CS:GO, and that's more student driven. So,
gotcha. Cool. All right, Doc, take it away.
Excellent. Like my colleagues, we support a bunch of students. We've got 5 varsity games. What Adam said, plus Madden and Valorant. And then about 200 students on the club side. We support another handful of games. Some of them are the same, some of them are different. R6 and Call of Duty and some of the other ones that the students want to play. We'll support them as well. But we have about 30 varsity student athletes who are both players, and we have them on the production side. I mean, I'm sitting in front of our production desk right here, and
is he just showing off now? I'm pretty sure he's just showing off.
Well, all right.
This is that's the doc special right there.
Not hard to beat my home office right now.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you, Michael. Oh, that's awesome. So describe a little bit about what the students are doing. You showed us that awesome facility. Like, describe what production is.
Wow. So we produce about 40 hours of live esports content a week. We have a team of about 15 production and on-camera talent. We produce all of our own things. We volunteer and produce high school events, and we also do some paid production. So it really is a working television studio with an esports team on the side, essentially is the way that it works.
That's awesome. So if I'm a parent and my kid is totally into esports, something that at NASEF we look at a lot is parents are going like, I don't know, like, I get that you love this, but is there a future? Can you really go to school? What are you going to do after you graduate? How are you going to make money? How are you going to take care of me in my old, all those questions. So what do you think is the path for kids if they're in high school right now and they're thinking esports in college? What's the path for them? Let's see, Danielle, I'll start with you. Put you on the spot.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny because I'm pretty new to the environment. I say new, but I've almost been here just about a year. And for us, I think on this call, except Adam, that way, I would presume that most of our degrees in college education didn't really pertain into esports. And I know you didn't go to college for that, Adam. I'm saying experience-wise. So I think gone are the days that that's going to be a thing. And you're going to have more people looking for students who have volunteered with programs like Doc or Adam. So I'm striving to get to Doc's level. I think we all are, even the chat. Education-wise, I think we need a lot of graphic design people. We just partnered LTU with production college, Specs Howard, and I had been speaking to them about that and starting to pull in people for shoutcasting. And obviously I had to say, oh, it's just like broadcasting. They just call it a fancy name. So hopefully things like that, production schools will start, funneling into esports, and that'll be a good fit too.
Mm-hmm. So we at NASEF, we talk a lot about what we describe as the esports ecosystem, which is all the jobs around the player. So for us, we see esports as a fantastic magnet to get kids involved and really caring about something at school. Like, how great is it to be able to be learning around something that you are super passionate about, right? And there are tons of job opportunities in esports that may or may not include you being a professional gamer. So Doc just mentioned broadcast. Danielle, you just mentioned graphic design. What other kind of opportunities do you see long-term for kids in or connected to the esports world? How about Adam?
Whatever you can imagine is kind of the short answer. I've had students with a variety of different skills and passions find a way into the space. We have a student who's going to start writing our weekly recaps. He has I don't know if he's super interested in sports writing or writing in general, but writing about esports has been something he's going to be doing for us. We have students who are in leadership positions as captains. We have students who are running broadcasts like Doc has. We have students who are doing play-by-play like Doc has mentioned. We have students who come in and take photos for our program. And these are all variety of skills that prior to 2 years ago, you would have classified them as job opportunities, whereas esports wasn't. And now we're all just kind of realizing that there is actually a lot more crossover and potential than we all originally thought. I did not think I was going into esports. I was a marketing director at a high school 4 years ago, saw a kid wearing an esports jersey and wanted to start a club. And we did. And now I'm working full-time as an esports coach, and a couple of those high school students are now getting scholarships to go to college to play esports. So how the world has changed. And I think most of us have seen that graphic with all the things. If you've got a passion and esports is also a passion of yours, there's probably an opportunity in the space for you. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, look at this group right here, right? All coaches, but none of us is, I don't know, is anyone on this call playing for a living?
Oh,
No.
I'm playing for a living.
All right.
Arcade game.
Is that how you're supporting your
Claire,
family, Doc?
I know this well because we've known each other for a bit, but this is the greatest scam I've ever perpetrated. I'm a head coach of video games, and they believe it. They buy it. In fairness to our colleagues, this is the hardest work I think each of us have ever done. It's the most dedicated. It's the most time we've ever put in. But there are very few moments where it feels like real work. It is an opportunity to be with students and watch them discover and become. It really is like watching a garden grow rapidly right in front of you. You're amazed and delighted. And it's one of the few things professionally, I think, that allows you to feel real joy. I mean, we all have happiness and success, but joy is like a selfless expression. And we get that in this space. And we get to discover it all the time. It's not that it's not hard. It's very hard. But it's a beautiful space. And we're seeing students become the next version of themselves because they got opportunities to have what we describe as consequential participation. The thing that they are doing is not an assignment that fits in a grade book. It is something that matters to them and to their community, and they have an opportunity to serve others through preparing for competition, for picking their teammates up after a bad loss, feeling proud of their association with their universities and their schools. It really is a special opportunity to plug these communities in where there really hasn't been that depth of community before.
Right. Yeah. We see all the time kids who they come to a NASEF club and they're like, I found my people. I have been looking for this. I found my people on my campus, which they may have connected with their people before online, but to find your people on your campus and then be able to do things that you care about and learn. And at the same time, we all know as adults that camaraderie and the collaboration that they learn and all of those things, it's so important for kids to be able to find that in high school and then to continue developing that through college is awesome. I heard the magic word scholarships earlier. And I think that is something that, as a parent with a college student, I can tell you my ears perk up when I hear the word scholarship. So tell us a little bit about what's available out there. Michael, how about if you tackle that one? What do you see available through NACE along the lines of scholarships?
Well, yeah, absolutely. By the way, I would still like finding your people. Absolutely. I'm waiting for them to let me in. So just want to point that out. Some of us, I know where they are. They'll let me in one day. But yes, scholarships. I mean, the largest pool. Let's be very frank here. The largest pool of scholarships. It's institutional scholarships, right? So I know there's this big. I would say to a point, it's a misconception that via esports, video games, you can go and win a lot of money, and sometimes that's in the form of scholarship pools. Yes, that does exist, but let's talk scale, right? The combined total of prize winnings in terms of scholarship prize pools, it's less than $1 million a year, maybe, right, here in the United States. But if we look at the aggregate pool of scholarships, of tuition support that institutions who are fielding esport programs have, we're talking in the tens of millions at this point. I mean, it's dramatically different. So when we talk about esports and scholarships, I always point out that the best and greatest support you're going to get is from the institutions. So what's your academic strength? what majors are you interested in? Matching that up with your player skill to institutions who are interested in students like you, that is the best utilization of your time that I can think of if I was a parent or a student, right? Obviously, the parent supporting the student, trying to point them in the right direction. Because we talk about earlier, I didn't mention because I didn't want to interrupt. These people are incredibly smart, and I want to hear what they have to say. But we talk about career opportunities and esports and all that. But remember, you can go after any major and still be a student with any esports program. I mean, just like any other sport, right? Very few people go, hey, you play basketball, so what are you going to do as a job with basketball? Most student athletes would go, no, I'm in computer sciences, I'm in accounting, I'm in journalism. I just also happen to play intercollegiate, insert activity. Esports is no different. There are a ton of job opportunities being created by esports, but I don't want to miss that people are complex. They're allowed to have many interests and pursue many interests. Your academic and your competitive interests don't have to overlap. That's perfectly fine. Be successful in both. Dedicate yourself to your fullest potential in any pursuit you do. Esports is just a vehicle that can help you get there and help give you other great skill sets that make you a great leader in your community, a great employee in the future, right? There are many companies who specifically target and want to hire as their employees former student athletes. And that's not because of the academic things they learn within sports. It's because of the skill sets, the character building that comes with, on top of the academic tool belt they come with having graduated with a full degree.
Right. That's absolutely true. And I know at NASEF we have partnered with University of California, Irvine for a lot of research into, how are kids learning when they're in these NASEF programs? And a lot of what they're learning is the STEM skills, the soft skills of communication and collaboration and understanding, how to identify a problem and solve it and that kind of thing. And that's super important. And that's not something that you take a class for, right? Just like you said, you may not major in esports. You may end up working in that industry. You may just love it and end up doing something tangentially related. It's all good. What we're looking for is a place where a student can be themselves and do what they love and learn a ton and have a job they love at the end of all of it. I mean, the last thing you want, we all love our jobs, right? The last thing you want is somebody who gets up in the morning and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to go to work today. So if we can help kids develop the skills and work in something that they're passionate about, I think that's awesome. So speaking of skills, what kind of skills are you all looking for when you're bringing someone onto one of your competitive teams? Danielle, what did you say? You have 11? You're crazy.
No, not that many. Don't give me that many. 8. Well,
8. Okay.
So I have Madden. Madden kind of self-sufficient. I don't want to say it that way, but that is kind of afterthought. So, yeah.
All right.
That's even worse, Danielle, to say it that way.
No, I don't mean it that way.
It's a smaller team, right? They're more able to self-organize.
So I have 2 Madden players. One was going to play League. And he actually is a multi-sport athlete. So he's on the lacrosse team, and Madden was easier to balance for him than League was going to be. And then the other player is also on the hockey team, which is also easier for him to balance. So it wasn't that it was an afterthought in that I wasn't. It's just they were really excited and interested in competing, and I didn't really want to turn a student away. I mean, I didn't get this opportunity, so I want to my demise and give everybody the opportunity to participate.
That's awesome. I'm gonna point out 2 things that you just said that I think debunk a lot of myths that parents have about esports. Because you said these kids are also playing sports, right? Lacrosse and hockey, and that they're learning balance. And I think one of the myths that we hear all the time is about, oh, my kid is always playing games, or these kids are always in the basement, right? They're always in a basement somewhere playing games. That is not true. And you can be a multi-sport athlete, and one of them include video games, and still do physical activity and still balance your life and be you know, doing well academically. That's all super important. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of it, you know, a lot of times parents kind of go, oh, I'm not sure if I want them in there because I'm afraid my kids are going to be addicted to gaming. That is the furthest thing, trust me, from any of our minds. If your kids get involved in esports, we want them to be well balanced. Okay, rant over. So what kind of skills are you looking for in kids?
I'll go. I mean, I'm
Yep.
obviously looking for somebody who can balance life. And it's going to take it serious. I think, like you said, a common misconception is that they're just playing video games in their parents' basement. And I really want somebody to represent, you know, esports and lift it up and be a voice. It's really important to have really good academics. I mean, most of us, higher education, you need to be here for that reason. So to be driven, that's really important.
Awesome. Adam, how about you? What are you looking for?
I think the balance thing's great. Academics is definitely an important piece of it. For me, one of the most important things I look for early on in the recruitment process is attitude and how they uphold themselves in difficult situations. So usually when I first start talking to a recruit, one of my first steps is to get them playing with some of our players and just run some games, talk about the school, get to know each other a little bit. And I go back to my players and ask them, hey, what was it like playing with this person? What happened when you guys lost? What was their reaction? Because the worst thing that I could do to our program and what I'm trying to build is bring in somebody who gets down on their teammates or really struggles with losing, doesn't know how to do that. So those are some of the early things I'm looking for. I'm not very hands-on with my recruiting. I know there's a lot of recruits out there or coaches who will constantly hit up their recruits and say, hey, have you applied this week? Have you applied this week? And constantly doing that. And I purposefully don't, because I want players who are self-driven and who are responsible enough to go through that process without me constantly begging them. Because if I beg them now to apply, I'll beg them next year to do their homework or go study. So those are kind of the small things. And the balance is so important. Nick's right behind me. He walked on this year to esports and the cross country team. He's a freshman and he's doing homework right now. So balance is a very important part of collegiate athletics in general, being able to balance it. So those are kind of the things I look for. Most of mine are soft skills, because I've learned over the years of coaching, both at the high school and college level, I can teach a lot of the hard skills when it comes to most of these games, at least to a semi-competitive level. But the soft skills take years to develop. So that's more what I focus on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Doc, how about you? Anything specific that you're looking for in recruits coming to your program?
Grades. Truly. I mean, one of the things that really can help us understand the level of success that they can have in the college scene is, even if there was a blip where things didn't go great, can you buckle down and can you make the academic part work? That is a critical skill that you have to master. And when things get hard, which they always do in college, you get sick, you have roommate issues, you overschedule, you oversleep, all of those things. Can you reset and get restarted? And grades tell us a lot. A lot of recruits ask, well, what can I do to be ready to play in college? And it really is, well, if you've got a B average now, see if you can make it a B plus average, right? See what you can do different in that realm, because we can offer them so much more in scholarship if their grades are a little bit higher. And it's a better indicator of how they're going to balance, as my colleagues talked about, what's going on in the difficult, competitive space, traveling back and forth, trying to make it all work, if they've got that experience. So grades are really important to us.
Awesome. So you just mentioned one thing: kids ask for advice and say, what do I do? And you said, if you have a B, strive to get a B plus. What else? NASEF has a ton of high school students that are going to watch this, I'm just realizing it's noon on the West Coast. So hopefully they're all in class right now. But of course, this will be available on Facebook later, and we'll make sure that a lot of students see this. So students who want to go to one of the colleges where you all are coaching, in addition to grades, what else do you recommend they do while they're in high school to increase their odds of playing for a program at one of your schools?
Play with teams. Get yourself on a team, whether it's like, you know, an esports tower or one of these developmental organizations that, you know, behaves like the AAU in basketball, or any one of baseball or football. I mean, any of the kind of the ladders for competitive experience. Have that experience. We don't want great solo queue players. We want great teammates, and that's a big step, because those games are kind of different. The collegiate meta and game is very different than the competitive queue meta, where you can manipulate it in some ways. Good teams are good teams because they're good teams, not because they're a collection of individually talented players. And we see it all the time, where good teams beat more talented players. And so get on a team. Get on a team and learn to lift where you stand.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I see our founder, Gerald Solomon, commenting there. What Doc means to say is join NASEF, which is 100% true. Through NASEF and through our partners at HSEL, we have a ton of opportunities for students to
Gerald,
play in
you
teams.
read my mind. As usual, you read my mind.
Awesome. Yeah. Danielle, how about you? What advice do you have for high schoolers who are wanting to play at your school?
I mean, everything that Doc said, and also persistence. I mean, sometimes I get super busy, and if you have great grades and experience and just continue to kind of like reach out or try to bring something to my attention, that's a big thing. I also think extracurriculars outside of just esports are something too, and it not just like our club, but just what you do for your community and things to improve as a person. It just kind of shows what kind of character you have. I know that's a lot to ask of a high school student, but you know, it matters.
Right. Well, you know what? In high school, you're preparing for college, you're preparing for life, right? So I think I agree. It's a great time to start those habits of making a difference in your community and, you know, being part of a team that's making a difference and not just thinking only about myself and what do I need? How am I going to get better for my own future? But how am I going to help my community too? Adam, anything to add to this? What kind of things should kids be doing while they're in high school?
I'm not going to add anything, but word of caution, I think, to a lot of high schoolers as they're going through the process of high school is watch your digital imprint and your brand on social media. I mean, you can burn bridges before they're even built with what you've put out on social media. I was just talking to another coach, colleague of mine at another school who said he's leaving to go to another school, but he is working through the process of doing the interviews of the school he's leaving. And he saw somebody had applied, and all he knew about that one person was a bad negative tweet they put out a couple months ago, and because of that they're not going to get an interview. So even and it's even probably even more important when we're looking at high schoolers and looking at college opportunities. So clean up that social media and keep it clean. It's just not worth it. And that's coming from me, who is pretty spicy on social media sometimes. So yeah,
I'd love to add to that, Adam, because you're absolutely right. How you've communicated yourself in the past, how you communicate today, those are all incredibly important. Adam, you're specifically calling on Twitter, but it's any social media platform that like anyone has visibility. Everything you put out there, if it's Twitter, let's be honest, 99% of the time somebody used against you sometime in the future somehow. It'll be twisted in whatever way, whether you meant it or not. So be very careful there. But I do also want to point out that some developers, some publishers are looking much more closely at in-game chat. And I think that might be surprising to some people. I'll give you an example. League of Legends, Riot runs College League of Legends. We also at NACE run League of Legends competition. But specifically to College League of Legends, they actually do look at the player chat history of the students competing. To my knowledge, they're the only publisher that does that at the collegiate level. I know, though, because we work with many publishers, that is actually being looked at much more closer for the future. So be careful. I mean, we're not just wanting, and it's not just us publishers as well. We're not just trying to see how you handle yourself in public. You're also being evaluated by how do you handle yourself when you feel like you're in a safe place.
It's true. I mean, our team at Aquinas had a student who was deemed ineligible for College League of Legends last year, and it was because of something he said 6 months before he even came to Aquinas in a game. So that's really important to know. And also Twitch streams, you never know who's watching, because I know Doc has mentioned it to me before, but I'll even do it with recruits. Is if I find a recruit streaming, I'll pop in and listen and see how they conduct themselves. And if they're doing things that I wouldn't approve of, I just immediately leave and they get nixed off my recruiting list, because I just don't want to have that in my program, frankly.
Yeah.
So.
Right, absolutely. At NASEF, we have a code of conduct, and that is super important to us. And I know one of the things that we're thinking is, we know there's a lot of toxicity out there in esports, right? But we're imagining this change happening right now from the ground up, from the younger kids coming in, and the change that they're going to make as they're in high school and they're in these programs that are demonstrating to them, how do you be uplifting? How do you be a good role model? How do you learn how to handle tilt? I mentioned the UCI research earlier, and one of the big studies they did is, how are kids learning to manage their tilt in game? And it's very different when they're in a guided situation like NASEF, where they have a coach and they have a general manager who are helping them go, okay, you did just completely blow it. You're right. Now, how do you handle that? How do you respond with your teammates? And build those skills in high school, and then in your case in college. And that makes for better citizens. We talked about this just a few minutes ago, better citizens in the world overall, right? Not just where you're gaming, but overall. So yeah, I'm really happy to have you guys bring that up. And it wasn't something I expected to cover, so I'm glad that we dove into it. Really important. Okay, we have just about every time we talk to somebody who loves esports and they hear about NASEF and they hear about, oh, you guys have these clubs in high school, these teams in high school. I wish I had that opportunity. So I'm just going to ask each of you, finish this sentence. If I had something like NASEF when I was in high school, Michael, what would have been different for you?
Maybe I would have been invited to the cool table. I'm not too sure. My knee would not be clicking at this point in time. I mean, I played football for the most part, all the way, middle school through high school. I loved it. Still do love football, but let me tell you, at a certain point, people got a lot bigger than me overnight. They didn't tell me. I didn't know I was supposed to get bigger too. But yeah, yeah, my knee would be a little bit better at this point in time, I feel. But look, we all have this, right? Danielle spoke about this earlier. None of us had the opportunity to do this in college. I think all of us loved games, but probably unless you are a very close friend, you would never know this about us, right? It's not something you would talk about. It's not like, why would you? It would never come up in conversation. And your community felt very small. Because of that, it just kind of is what it is. I find it wonderful. It's a breath of fresh air, and a sign, I think, of a good person, that they recognize when they didn't get an opportunity. Instead of complaining about it, they do exactly what Danielle and many others have done. They create those opportunities for other people because they see value in it. And that's exactly what I think we're seeing from the good folks over at NASEF. That's exactly what we see within NACE. But yeah, I mean, I wonder all the people I probably had a lot in common with that I never had a connection with, because we never knew about each other. We never knew what the other was passionate about because there was no opportunity to connect. But absolutely,
Right.
Those connections exist today.
Yeah, yeah. Adam, how about you? If you had something like NASEF when you were in high school, what would have been different for you?
My parents probably would have supported my passions more, and taking them seriously. I was always a gamer. I still game with my high school buddies today. And that's the reason why I started the club at the high school 4 or 5 years ago, was to create those same opportunities for students. And I think that would be the most important piece, taking it away. If I was afforded that opportunity, is parents would be more bought in. They're still not bought in, but we're getting there.
We're working on it.
Yeah. And then the other piece was, I think I would have taken my passions more seriously as a student. I never thought gaming would give me a career. I never thought gaming would be anything past what I did when I got home from school. But now, obviously, I've realized that, and now I get to share that knowledge with students today. And that brings me joy, because up until now, I've had students. I know one student at Aquinas that I constantly talk about. His name's Powder. He's a Rocket League caster there. He tried out for the Rocket League team, was not good enough to play. And I was like, yeah, I don't have a spot for you, but I'd love to have you cast. And he did. And now he's casting on College Carball's Twitch, getting in front of 30,000 people at a given time. And this is a student that his first 2 years at Aquinas had switched majors twice. Didn't know what he wanted to do, and now he has found that calling and that passion. And it's because we offered esports at Aquinas that student and numerous others have come to that realization. So and I would have hopefully had that same opportunity if we had something like NASEF back in my day, but we didn't. So all we can do is try to provide that for students now.
Right. And that's really the heart of this question, right? It isn't about the do-over. It's about take advantage right now. Like, look at these leaders in front of you. I mean, what high school student wouldn't love to play for any one of you, right? And so hear what they're saying about the value of NASEF and take advantage of it. Danielle, how about you? If you had NASEF and you were in high school?
Yeah. Literally guidance and community. I mean, everything that they said, I was kind of, being a female, I kind of really left games under wraps, because people were like, you play games? So I was going about my life. I was a patient advocate in an emergency room, and there were people who didn't even know that I played games religiously because I worked nights. So just literally having people like me around, and I get along with tons of people, but there are plenty of people who don't have that community. But this is one of those first times that I really feel accepted through and through for everything that I do. And that's the cool part. So definitely having a community around me and to support, and I would have saved a lot of money and time.
All right. Well, that's important. How about you, Doc?
Well,
What
if NASEF had been around when I was in high school, we probably wouldn't have had to fight the Confederacy for the future of our union. So we would have been able to
leave it to Doc.
Their game.
Yeah.
That's right.
Leave it to that. Well, you know what? I'm hearing what all of you are saying, and it reminds me of a student who told us once, like, when their school announcements announced that the esports team had a championship match that day, like, he just, like, that's me. I can't believe they're talking about me and the esports team on the announcement. Like, it just makes such a difference to high schoolers. And so it's really cool. I just love the opportunity to be working in this and to be helping students see their vision, how they can connect their passion with where they're going to go to school, what they're going to study, what they're going to play, their free time, whether they're going to play on a varsity team or in a club. You all mentioned having great clubs. So there are tons of opportunities for kids, and that's what we want to reinforce, is that through NASEF and through, NACE, you can see what your opportunities are in the collegiate space. And that's what we're here for, is to open those up to students and hopefully give them a path to do something that they really love. So I cannot thank you guys enough, all 4 of you. This was so much fun, as I knew it would be from who was on the panel. And we're for sure going to make use of this, as I said, when school is out, and make sure that the students get to see this too. So thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And I had some supporters. Cody.
You did have some supporters. I noticed that.
She's one of my team captains. So I probably have a couple other in there secretly. They make a joke out there because they called me, I got called a manager on stream. So now they just haven't let it die. So whatever.
Either way, you're the boss.
That's right.
True.
That's right. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right, guys.